Halo to some is the best first-person shooter of all time. I've always liked a bit more mobility in my shooters, but what's indisputable to me is that Halo has one of the greatest enemies of all time, the Grunt. We can attribute this to their skinny and diminutive state, comic relief status, and importantly, their colourful design. Where its contemporaries like Gears of War makes its enemies indistinguishable as their homogenized colour scheme blends them together, Halo comes from a time when art style was expected to be vibrant and expressive, trying to grab the player's attention with shiny visual appeal. Until the tactic was later substituted with battle passes and microtransactions. But more than a colourful cast is needed to make an enemy compelling, and the Grunts' behaviour and characterisation set them apart from every other evil alien. Where other games have enemies that are meant to intimidate you so you feel like a badass when you overcome them, Halo is more concerned with making the Grunts feel like living creatures, and in turn making them likeable. There is not enough praise in this world for them. Their Jawa-like design, squeaky voice, and gut-bustingly funny voice lines make them simply iconic, and their cowardly personality makes them distinctive from every other FPS in existence. The Grunts are designed as a contrast of sorts. They're there to prop up the elites as the severe threat, but they also add personality and emotion to the Covenant, showing that these are all different species fighting for the same cause. It's also quite sad that these pathetic creatures are conscripted into a battle they can't possibly hope to survive. It seems like they fight out of fear more than any deep religious belief, and how they interact with their allies and enemies gives the Covenant so much depth. See, Halo is one of the only non-RPG games to incorporate a morale mechanic into its enemies, which causes their behaviour to change as the fight evolves. If you take down the elites and brutes first, the jackals and grunts begin to panic, and run around aimlessly as they desperately try to survive. As you systematically dismantle the squad's hierarchy, the chain of command snaps, and the weaker enemies go crazy. Where other games have also had this mechanic of enemies giving up when they know they're about to lose, often it's as simple as them running away in a turn-based battle, or flatly surrendering as you decide whether to spare them. In Halo, the enemies can't just disappear off the battle screen, and they don't beg, they start to scream and panic, adding a sense of chaos to the battle as your enemy begins to fall apart. Often the fight is still going on, so you have to navigate through the grunts to take down the remaining commanders. This creates an interesting strategy you can employ in every fight. Do you start with the cannon fodder to make taking down the leaders easier, or do you prioritize the leaders so that the fodder will be automatically defeated? It creates a sense of escalation in fights, where the enemy gets more desperate and unwieldy as you take down more and more of them. The sheer presence of the Master Chief alone brings the battle to a climax. Halo is one of the biggest power fantasy games ever. The narrative takes great strides to make it clear that Master Chief is some kind of messiah-like figure, and that the Covenant fears his very name. So including a way to not just make soldiers surrender, but go mad from your badassery, is a superb way of showing us how cool Chief is outside of cutscenes. It makes the player feel powerful instead of the character, because it's our gameplay that causes the enemy to surrender. Going back to grunts, they have a rare but tragic way of giving up. Suicide grunts are annoying to deal with, but usually they're thrown by a bigger enemy as a way of being sacrificed to try and take you out. It never gave me the sense that the grunts were okay with being murdered because of how little everyone else respected them, although it's when the grunts take their own lives upon surrender that's genuinely morbid. We all have a flight or fight response to danger, and it seemed like the grunts were incapable of fighting. But that's wrong. They do attempt to charge you and kill themselves in the process, but is this out of religious belief or sheer terror? Maybe the legend of the Chief is so great that the grunts fear being brutalized by him and would instead take their own lives. It's one thing for the other species to not value their lives, but for the grunts themselves to think of them as entirely disposable is a little heartbreaking. But on the other hand, I would absolutely love to see what it would look like if a squad of grunts came face to face with the Doomslayer. Make it happen, Microsoft. Give us a Halo DLC level in the Dark Ages, please. Grunts are more than just the simple comic relief that they're known for. They give the games their personality in place of the Master Chief, and their AI makes the battles feel much more like a real war. Their lack of faith in themselves and the Covenant shows that they are tragic creatures who are mocked both inside and outside the universe. I'll be back in 2 days. In the meantime, here's a video about whether Doom has the right idea about mining Hell for resources.